All right, last time we got started and I showed you a really basic setup for how to use the nav mesh system within Unity. This time we're going to start to actually get into the nitty-gritty of building out a finite state machine. I think FSM I've heard it called, so that our NPC has different behavior states that it can switch between. That uses this ugly, beautiful, ugly flowchart that hopefully is on the screen right now. The start here is our initialization, so grabbing component and handles, and then the just chillin' non-alert state will be the NPC character is just standing there. And as soon as it sees the player, it can hop into the engaged state, and after a set amount of time, it will go searching for us, and then it will go back into the just chillin' non-alert state. That's what we're building towards in this this next section of this series. We're probably not going to do this in one video because it'll take multiple features to get this working, but this is what we're looking towards. So, if you haven't already, get to the end point of the last video, the first one that's in this section, or in this series, I guess. That way you have a capsule that is an NPC that has a nav mesh agent and a script attached to it. And this is where we're going to get started. So the first thing that we need when we're building a behavior state machine like this is we need a way to sort of switch between the three behaviors and just sort of be able to simulate what that would look like. And then we'll start to add actual logic for automatically switching between them instead of us manually selecting that in the inspector. But let's go ahead and do it the manual way first, just so we can get that started. So first things first, I'm actually going to comment out this line of setting the destination to us since we don't want it to be following us all the time. We're building up towards having different states. So the states that we want to have is we want to have not alert, which is either walking between waypoints, standing and chilling, having conversations, whatever that looks like. We have an engaged state, which will include things like running away, attacking, stuff like that. And then we have a searching state, right? Which is the, hey, I saw the player, but he's now missing, so I'm looking for him. And after a set amount of time, the searching state will go back to non-alert. Cool. That's what we're looking at. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but when I'm looking at this, what makes sense to me is using a thing called an Enum. If you're not familiar with Enums, you can think of them like a drop-down menu. So to declare an Enum is pretty easy. You would say private Enum, and then you got to give it a name just like anything else. So what is this drop-down menu holding? This is holding all of the NPC behaviors, right? And then you can open up curly brackets and use regular English to describe the names of these behaviors. So the first one is not alert, and then end that with a comma. The next behavior is engaged, comma, and the last one we're going to deal with for right now is searching, and you don't have to put a comma at the end. So now that we have this enum, this is just saying these are the available behaviors that we could choose, but we also need another variable to hold the current behavior that our NPC is in. So what we would say is we would say private, and then you use the name that you gave it up here. So private NPC behaviors, and then give this one a name, which is probably like our current state that we're in, right? So current state. For the purposes of testing, let's go ahead and serialize this field so that we can see it and change it in the inspector. But in the long run, we're probably going to hide this NPC behaviors, this current state eventually. But for now, let's make it so that we can actually see it. So if you save your script and you hop into Unity, you should be able to now see, yes, we now at the bottom have a current state. That's our drop-down menu. And there's three options, not alert, engaged, and searching. Beautiful. So we know that that's working. So these states actually don't mean anything until we add more code to actually define the behavior of what it means to be not alert. What does it mean to be engaged? What does it mean to be searching? So what state do we start in? If you take a look at this beautiful flowchart, we start in our non-alert state by default. So let's set that in our code so that we don't have to manually select that in the inspector. So let's go ahead and set that in our start method. The way to do that is we would say current state equals NPC behaviors dot not alert. And then in the update method for now, maybe what we should do is we should just continually check what state we're in. And maybe we'll just use like a debug.log to print out what state we're into the console, just so we can make sure that we can accurately switch between them. but eventually we will probably want to do this with more of an event-driven system. But for now, let's go ahead and use let's use a switch statement for this. So let's say we're going to switch between our current state. And if you're not familiar with a switch statement, it's just like a fancy version of an if statement. So we're checking if what our current state is, and then within that, there are different cases. So case case NPC behaviors dot not alert would be one. And then you put a colon at the end of that to say, here's the code within that, which for now I'm going to use the debug.log and just print something to the console. I know that it's not efficient. It doesn't matter this early on. We're just trying to get our code base working and then we can optimize it later. So debug.log, and then we're going to say like, I don't know, just chilling. And then at the end of the case, you do want to use a break statement so that the computer knows when you're done with that. That's why it's underlined in red. Sweet. Let's do that with the other cases or the other states. So we also have an NPC behaviors.engaged. And for that, maybe we'll also do a debug.log. And this will be like, I see the player. And then we'll break. And then we're going to go again with the last one, case NPC behaviors.searching. One more debug.log just to make sure this is working. And for this one, it'll be like looking for the player ... And end that once more with a break statement. Cool. And like I said, this is definitely not the most efficient way to do this. We're just trying to program this via brute force so that our code base is up and working and we're seeing the behaviors that we want. And then we're going to go back through and look at ways to make this efficient and optimal. But for now, let's test this. Let's see if this actually works. So in our NPC, it's not alert. So for now, I'm going to set it to engaged, and we should, because we put that in start, we should see it switch to not alert right away. And I'm actually going to also go ahead and open up, I'm going to go to Window, General, Console, and I'm going to snap this console to the side view here, just so we can see the messages printing out, hopefully. So I'm going to hit play, and we should see... Okay, it switched to not alert, and we're getting the just chillin' message 1,000 times, 2,000 times. Yeah, this is why this is probably not the most efficient way, because it's checking continually. Let's go to engaged. So now that we're in the engaged state, the just chillin' message has stopped, and I see the player is now printing out instead. And if we go to the last one, searching, perfect. The other two messages have stopped, and looking for the player has started printing out instead. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have a way to switch between states and we know that that's working, it's time for us to transition out of the not alert state via code. And the only way to do that is if we've detected the player. So in the next video, we're going to take a look at how to detect the player. All right, see you in the next one.